And and welcome to another episode of On the Record. I'm your host, Michael Stalk, and today in studio we have Mohawk Council Chief Mike Bush. We're going to be discussing the new community making decision process that they're going through, and the continuation of trying to establish a Justice Act. Good afternoon, Mike.
Good afternoon.
Was I right?
Justice Act is maybe the inappropriate word.
Okay.
What we're looking for is a system in order to resolve issues in Ganawage and to decide on Ganawage law. And presumably this is going to be law that the people have supported, have developed, and created. Where are you going to take it? We're not going to go to the feds. We're not going to do it under the Indian Act. We're not going to go to the provincial government, or at least we don't. Certain of us don't want to do that. There may be other people that think that's appropriate. Personally, I don't.
You know, it's we were talking a little bit off camera, but I think regardless of what's going to happen, it's a tough call. I mean, you have pro and con on both sides, and some of the issues that you're going to be dealing with to try to get to the end of the day, to try to get something that would be agreeable for the whole community is going to be difficult. Why now, though? I mean, I've said it on camera before, and maybe I'd seen some of the previous shows, even with Kenneth on, and when we were saying, why is it now that they're trying to fast track this Justice Act? You know, we've had a court for over 30 years. What was wrong with that system? I know that some of the JPs are going out, and how does that all progress and come together to now that we have to do this?
It's not really a push come to shove. It's just that if we don't do it now, we may not have enough time in the immediate future to be able to do what people think need to be done. This is not an MCK initiative. This is not MCK saying we have to have our own court to enforce our own law. This goes back to 1990. People were saying, why, and these are older people who are saying, why do we have to go outside to a foreign court, to a provincial court, to get things dealt with that should be dealt with in Ganawage. A couple of the 99 agreements were a direct result of elders in the community saying, why do I have to go and get a birth certificate from Quebec? You used to be able to do it in a church or the church. Mm-hmm. So we developed an agreement with Quebec to deal with Ganawage birth certificates. Initially, when we were still working as IRT, we had tried to get the Canadian government to accept the Longhouse birth certificates, and we were that close. And it was communities outside of Ganawage that said the Longhouse is not the recognized entity to be able to issue birth certificates. So Canada backed off. But we had them.
Yeah,
we had them that close.
I would imagine the Nation office would argue that point.
Well, they can. I was there. I saw it happen.
It's like I said. But I think that I'm not defending how things work on the outside, but it seems like in the last 10, 15 years, they're trying to standardize everything that's out there. I don't know if they're doing it to try to get the information from Native communities that they've never gotten in the past.
The census
and stuff like that, because we've never done it. And how are they going to know how many actual Native is there in Canada? So it seems like they're trying to get a lot of that information through different ways, especially with the birth certificate situation. Now you have no choice. You have to get a Quebec birth certificate because they're not taking the church one anymore in most cases. So you know.
No, fair enough, but at the same time, we have reopened discussions with Quebec under that 99 agreement, and Quebec is willing to entertain the fact that they will once again recognize or respect that agreement that said Ganawage would issue its own birth certificates. So we've got a tension that's working here. I should say a dynamic, all right? And, you know, we keep trying to maintain, defend Ganawage and its jurisdiction, and I know that the word is overused. But there is amongst some of us the belief that we have to do it. Okay, if we have to stand there with a shield at the gate and say, this is Ganawage, this is where things happen differently, this is how we do things, all well and good. If you want to put a label on it within the community, if we're going to sit there and fight with each other and say it's the Longhouse this, it's 207, it's up the hill, I mean, that's internal. Okay, but there's still a few of us that are standing there at the gate saying, whatever's done in Ganawage is done in Ganawage. Don't tell us this is how it has to be done. We can do it. What we have to do is find a way to unify within to make these things happen, to make them work.